Welcome to the University of Washington School of Art, Art History and Design, Health and Safety presentation. My name is Kim Van Summeren, Instructional Technician in Printmaking, IBA, and Painting and Drawing. I am one of 7 instructional technicians in the School of Art who have put together this presentation to keep art, art history, and design undergraduate and graduate students, faculty, and staff safe while working. Many of the topics covered in this presentation are a general overview of what the individual programs will provide. Please work with the technicians and faculty in your respective programs for more explicit practices and policies. This presentation will cover exciting topics, including state and federal regulations, COVID-19 policies, general building policies, and others. It is important to us that you follow along carefully and understand why these policies are in place. Please do not hesitate to write down questions that are covered, not clearly stated, or prevent you from feeling safe in your work environments. This is a map of the School of Art, Art History, and Design. The school is a collaboration of many disciplines within 3 buildings: the main campus, the CMA, and Sandpoint. The main campus building hosts the majority of personnel, in addition to the advising and administrative offices, the School of Art Computer Center, Parnassus, a student-run coffee shop, the wood shop, and the majority of undergraduate course offerings, as well as 3 exhibition spaces within the building. The Ceramic and Metal Arts Building, or CMA, hosts ceramics, sculpture, and glass courses, in addition to 3D Forum graduate students and the CMA Gallery. Sandpoint Studios hosts all painting and drawing graduates and faculty studios, in addition to a wood shop and gallery. In terms of numbers, the School of Art, Art History, and Design is quite a big place. The school is not only spread out over 3 buildings, but in terms of square footage, students per quarter taking classes, studio workspaces, and staff and faculty numbers, it is crucial that every person in each space is knowledgeable on how to follow safe working practices. For the most part, these buildings run 24/7. As many of the spaces are overseen by faculty and support staff, both graduate and undergraduate students may find themselves working in unsupervised conditions at times. Within these spaces, one can find students, staff, and faculty engaged in various practices. This includes focused and quiet research and/or working with toxic and industrial equipment. The extreme variety of activities that occurs influences a heightened level of knowledge and training required to participate in coursework. As a Level 1 research university, it is imperative that we enable our students and faculty to engage with their materials to the highest degree, but in the safest of conditions. As I mentioned before, the School of Art, Art History, and Design is fortunate to have on staff 7 instructional technicians. All technicians are highly specialized in their programmatic fields and health and safety, but are also professional artists in their own right. Andy Fallett, Instructional Technician in Sculpture, John Martin, Woodshop, Flynn O'Brien, Design, Sean O'Neill, Glass, Jinsu Song, Ceramics, Michael Van Horn, Photomedia, and me, Kim Van Summeren, Printmaking, Interdisciplinary Visual Arts, and Painting and Drawing. It is important to know that the technicians are the authority on health and safety in their respective programs. We are committed to show and set an example to our students on how to lead safe and healthy lives as professional artists. This presentation is designed to give you a brief introduction and to increase your awareness on safety in the arts. It is not a comprehensive coverage of the topic. The materials covered here will be augmented in the classroom and studio by your faculty and instructional technicians. We want you to be safe, and we want you to keep our facilities safe for those working near you. The activities and research you do in our communal studios affects you and everyone around you. We hope the practices you learn here will be carried forward throughout your art-making career. Please help keep the School of Art, Art History, and Design a healthy place for us all. The University of Washington School of Art, Art History, and Design COVID-19 Prevention Plan helps ensure the health and safety of personnel by reducing the potential for COVID-19 transmission at the University of Washington. The measures are based on Governor Inslee's Safe Start requirements, the regulatory directive of the Washington State Department of Labor and Industries, Division of Occupational Safety and Health, the general coronavirus prevention under Stay Home, Stay Healthy order, and guidance from public health agencies. This plan will be updated as regulations and public health guidance change. As notated by the above signage you will see on campus, everyone must take measures to ensure that all personnel follow policies put in place by the state. Face coverings, sanitizing, physical distancing, washing hands, and staying home while sick or symptomatic are the first things that we all must do to keep each other safe. More specific policies and signage in the School of Art, Art History, and Design buildings that involve face coverings, cleaning, public and private work areas, and equipment use will be clearly defined by each program or building as the approved population of undergraduate and graduate students, staff, and faculty will be different in all programs during academic quarters affected by COVID-19. All incoming graduate students are required to attend program-specific training as part of their onboarding process. Those who experience symptoms of COVID-19 infection, including fever of 100.4 degrees or higher, cough, shortness of breath, loss of taste and/or smells, chills, sore throat, runny nose, headache, muscle pain, and gastrointestinal symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea are required to follow these instructions. 1. Stay home. If you are sick, you must stay home even if you have mild symptoms. Separate yourself from others and avoid common areas where people gather. 2. Contact your healthcare provider. Do not show up at a clinic, urgent care center, or other healthcare facilities without contacting them first. From there, your healthcare provider will work in accordance with public health guidance. 3. Contact the employee health center. If your healthcare provider confirms or suspects that you have COVID-19, you are required to contact the EH&S, Environmental Health and Safety Center, on campus. Since 1996, the School of Art, Art History, and Design has a Health and Safety Committee made up of the instructional technicians, faculty, and staff from each of the school's 3 divisions. One of these committee members has a seat on the School of Arts Council to advise on matters of this nature. One of these objectives of the committee is to produce and keep an up-to-date version of a safety and emergency evacuation plan. This important document presents building, programmatic, environmental, and other emergency protocol for students, staff, and faculty working in the School of Art buildings. Copies of this safety manual can be found in all studios as well as on the School of Art's webpage. If you are interested in serving on this committee, speak to a member of the Safety Committee. As a graduate student, service on a committee such as this looks positive and forward-thinking on a CV. As always, anyone is welcome to attend any of the quarterly held meetings. The university at large has an environmental health and safety department, which is responsible for implementing state and federal safety policies and procedures. This department is also available for technical assistance and compliance questions. In Washington State, people working with art materials for public or private employers are covered by a state standard that complies with the federal OSHA hazard communication law, also known as the Right to Know law. The University of Washington has created a hazard communication program, which includes 3 important steps in adhering to this code. These steps are labeling, safety data sheets, and specific training. The first part of this program regulates how materials are labeled. All hazardous materials are required to have an appropriate label revealing what the material is, as well as who the manufacturer is. Materials transferred to a different container must be labeled in the same manner of the original container. When selecting secondary storage, choose glass over plastic, as most plastics will break down over time and cause spills and contamination. Ensure containers have a tightly sealing lid meant for that container, as opposed to the stuffing a Kleenex in the wine bottle method. Note that different School of Art programs and studios may have different labeling procedures and codes. Pay close attention to all signage when working in different studios and shops. Instructional technicians in the School of Art are charged with writing and posting proper studio signage. All signs and written notifications should be read carefully and adhered by. ACMI, or the Art and Creative Materials Institute, is an international association of approximately 200 art, craft, and creative materials manufacturers, which seek to promote safety in art and creative products through its certification program. The Federal Labeling of Hazardous Art Material Act, or the Right to Know law, became law in November of 1990. This law governs the labeling of hazardous art materials nationally and is enforced by the Consumer Product Safety Commission. The law principal intent is to assure that art materials are labeled to warn consumers of potential hazards. Products bearing the AP label or the approved product label are certified safe and non-toxic by a medical expert. Materials such as these do not contain materials in sufficient quantities to be toxic or injurious to humans or to cause acute or chronic health problems. Products bearing the CL or cautionary label contain ingredients that are toxic or hazardous, but can be used safely with appropriate caution. Materials with this label should only be used by those persons who are able to read, understand, and follow suggested safety precautions for handling those materials. The second part of the University of Washington's Hazard Communication Program is the requirement of safety data sheets. Safety data sheets are prepared by product manufacturers globally and are available to employers or consumers of the products. Manufacturers are required by law to provide safety data sheets to consumers who request such data. Safety data sheets are also a part of the University of Washington's MyChem program, an online database of materials and chemicals used and stored in university studios, labs, and shops. Students, staff, or faculty can obtain copies of SDS reports of studio-provided materials by requesting them from their instructional technicians. The third part of the university's hazard communication program is training. Training is given by an instructional technician or instructor around specific hazards in the studio. As stated earlier, this presentation is meant to provide only the first step as a general introduction to hazardous art materials. Necessary training takes place with instructional staff in studio spaces and hands-on training. Each program and studio has specific training requirements. Check with instructional technicians for more information on how to access shops, tools, and materials. Next, we'll talk about routes of exposure. When working with toxic materials, know that you and all of those around you are always at risk. Many of us will always work in communal studio settings. Therefore, it is important to understand the risks associated with working with materials both first and secondhand. There are 3 ways in which your system can be exposed to hazardous materials. Absorption means that you take materials through your skin. This can happen through cuts, burns, and some materials like solvents can penetrate directly through the skin into the bloodstream. Inhalation, the easiest route, means you breathe the materials into your lungs where it can damage your respiratory system. If this material is absorbed into the bloodstream, it can affect other parts of your body. Ingestion means that you eat or drink your art materials. If you eat or drink while working in the studio, you may accidentally ingest it from your fingers or drink the dust in your beverage. Do not hold brushes in your mouth or suck on brush tips. Art materials just don't belong in your mouth. Later, we will discuss how you can protect yourself properly from the short and long-term effects of these exposure rates. Effects of hazardous materials. When working with hazardous materials, absolute caution must take place. Issues such as acute effects, chronic effects, and personal susceptibility must be considered. Acute means now. Generally, acute effects are caused by a single but relatively high exposure of a hazardous chemical to the body. This could take place in the form of a broken bone or a headache. Acute conditions, if left untreated, can lead to chronic syndromes. Chronic effects occur over a longer period of time and involve lower exposures. Examples of chronic conditions are migraines, heart disease, and cancer. It is important to know that some toxic materials can have both acute and chronic health effects. As an example, coming into contact with mineral spirits on one's hand on a single day can cause acute effects. One may become nauseated or have a headache after this happens. However, coming into contact with mineral spirits on one's hands every day for years can cause chronic effects such as psoriasis, cancer, and internal and brain damage. Another aspect of the effects of hazardous materials is personal susceptibility. Small children exposed to hazardous materials are likely to be more affected than a healthy adult simply because of body mass. Pregnant women, people with heart problems, elderly, and people with allergies or asthma all may be more affected by exposure to various art materials. If you have a condition that could make you more at risk, please inform your instructor or instructional technician. Exposure to some art materials can lead to sensitization. This means that one can react to even small amounts of the material. Many find that after using it over time, they start reacting to even a small amount. Reactions can come in the form of headaches, watery eyes, runny noses, and sometimes worse. At the University of Washington, we have discontinued the use of turpentine and some polyester fiberglass resins specifically because of this reason. Strategies for safe use. We at the University of Washington School of Art, Art History, and Design have implemented strategies for safe use of materials and equipment. Your job is to follow our lead. Many of you will be leading courses at the University of Washington School of Art and will be held responsible for requiring your students to then follow your lead. It is through knowledge and understanding the aspects of these safe strategies we will have successful students and safe working environments for all. The first of these strategies is to read and follow instructions. It is important to know the materials and tools you are working with. Read and follow labels, manuals, and all directives carefully. If you are not well versed in using a new or unfamiliar brand of equipment, contact the equipment manufacturer or coordinate a training session with your instructor or instructional technician. As research is held to a high standard at the University of Washington, safety is held higher. There is no shame in asking for help and no substitute for knowledge. A second strategy is to substitute and minimize toxic materials. Substituting non-toxic materials can help minimize the levels of the adverse chemicals found in studios. For example, substituting a surfactant like Simple Green that will help break down oils that are miscible in water is better than using something toxic like solvent. If you must use a hazardous material, minimize the amount that you are exposed to and only use the amount that you need to get the job done. A third strategy is proper storage. All flammable, combustible, and toxic materials must be stored properly. Flammables cabinets are designed to keep its contents safe for up to 20 minutes during a fire. Therefore, all flammables, when not in use, must be stored in a School of Art provided flammables cabinet. Storage is not permitted in lockers or drawers. Store flammables containers upright with lids properly closed. Solvents must be labeled with name, date, and contents. Secondary storage must be an appropriate container and labeled with contents and name. All cabinet doors are required to be closed correctly and closed when not in use. The fourth strategy for safe use is knowing proper disposal methods. There are strict city, county, and federal rules of waste disposal. Only water should go down the drain. School of Art generated hazardous waste must be labeled and reserved for pickup by the Environmental Health and Safety Department. Work with your instructional technician for proper procedures for hazardous waste removal and wash areas in your work area. Waste disposal drums are available for discarding used solvents and oils. Contact your instructional technician for use of these drums or if you have issues with clogged or full drums. Aerosol cans are considered hazardous waste. Disposal cans are available in most spray booths for empty aerosol cans. Keep in mind that the School of Art main building is nearly 70 years old, and the CMA building is over 50 years old. Be kind to the plumbing, the HVAC, and the electrical panels. Be careful even when disposing glues, latex paints, and acrylic-based paints and inks. Items such as these should never go down the drain. Do not overload the outlets with high wattage equipment. Be aware that a blown fuse, clogged sink, or anything that requires infrastructure repair must be done by a University of Washington facilities service person. A technician or staff member can call these requests in as a work order, but may take some time to be repaired. Other items for disposal have policies as follows. Broken glass should never go in the trash. It should be carefully swept up, put in a cardboard box or paper bag labeled broken glass, and set next to garbage cans. Notify your faculty or instructional technician for large items that require assistance. Sharp items such as X-Acto blades, single-edge blades, metal shards, sewing needles should never go in the garbage. Containers for disposal are available in some studios for this purpose. The CMA has more specific policies on broken glass, large heavy items, and sharps. Dumpsters are located at all three buildings. Read signage for proper disposal of construction, metal, recyclable, and compostable items. Do not leave items outside dumpsters. Break down larger items to fit inside. Do not place liquids or hazardous materials in dumpster bins. If you are unsure of how to dispose of any items other than small garbage, please work with your instructional technician to determine proper disposal. Studio cleanout will occur for undergraduates on a quarterly basis and for graduate students after they complete their 2-year stay. Move-out dates will be sent out by the instructional technicians or the administrative office. Please do not place free items in hallways or in walkways. This can create a fire hazard if too many items begin piling up. Work with your faculty or instructional tech to disseminate free items if you have them. Spontaneous combustion is the ignition of organic matter with or without apparent cause, typically through heat generated internally by rapid oxidation. One of the most common culprits is linseed oil-soaked rags. Rags used to clean up linseed oil-based materials such as paints, inks, and stains provide a large surface area for oxidation to occur, thus speeding up the rate of heat buildup. After 1 hour, crumpled linseed oil-soaked rags can reach temperatures as high as 110 degrees. Flames can just start after 3 hours. In 1999, the University of Washington Painting and Drawing Studios experienced a fire related to crumpled and linseed oil-soaked rags and canvas. Most recently, the Vermont Studio Center was also ravaged by a similar fire in their historical 2D Studios building. With many people at home and working on DIY projects, there has been an alarming spike in spontaneous combustion-related fires. It is important that when working in your individual studios at the university, that specific protocols are followed when working with rags, flammable, and combustible materials. The University of Washington currently offers a Shop Rag program. Rags are available for use in select University of Washington studios, for example, the woodshop, painting, printmaking, Sandpoint, and at the CMA. Due to COVID-19, rag service has been temporarily suspended. Speak to your faculty or instructional technician for current protocol. Rags are available to assist in cleaning up materials containing solvents, paints, inks, and other flammable or combustible liquids. Use only the School of Art provided rags. Do not bring in other rags or use paper towels for this purpose. After use, dirty rags must be deposited in the self-closing rag bins. Do not store or leave dirty rags on work surfaces or pinned to the wall. Do not deposit garbage or paper towels in rag bins. Ensure all dirty rags are fully enclosed in the bin. Do not overfill the bin or leave rags hanging outside of the bin. If the bin at your current location becomes full, please contact your faculty or instructional technician for assistance. Before leaving the studio, ensure all dirty rag bins are fully closed. All shops for the School of Art, Art History, and Design have specific policies in place regarding personal protective equipment, or PPE. Knowing and adhering to these rules is imperative in working in our studios. Be informed as to what is required to the task you are working with. Instructional technicians are here to ensure that you are aware and follow the rules in accordance to PPE. Keep in mind that as a graduate student who is appointed a TA or instructor of record will be setting the standard and held responsible for the safety of large groups of undergraduate students. It is important to wear proper work clothes. Do not wear loose or ragged clothing. Long hair should be tied into a bun or put under a cap. Loose adornment such as necklaces, bracelets, rings, watches, and headphone cords should be removed when working with equipment. Wear studio-appropriate shoes and workwear that is frequently washed and kept separate from other items of clothing. Each shop will have more specific protocols on what one can and cannot wear while working. To protect your hands from hazardous materials, wear job-appropriate gloves. There are different types of gloves which will protect you against different materials. Therefore, all gloves are not equal. For example, nitrile, neoprene, and vinyl gloves will protect you against most acids and solvents. Latex gloves will dissolve when they come into contact with solvent and are really meant for anything that is water-based. Gloves must never be worn when working with power tools in the woodshop. Specific gloves must be worn when working with high heat, such as in the hot shop. Speak to your instructional technician for recommendations of proper hand protection. Again, each shop will have a more specific policy on hand protection. Noise is measured in decibels. Normal conversation levels are at approximately 60 decibels. Anything that is above 85 decibels is considered harmful, depending on how long or how frequent the sounds are. Most hearing loss is irreversible. Therefore, if you are using loud equipment, you are advised to wear hearing protection. On the left, sculpture instructional technician Andy Fallett is using a disc sander, a tool that is capable of exceeding 95 decibels. Because of this, he is wearing foam earplugs. As with most PPE, there is a correct way of inserting earplugs. Please speak to a technician on how to do so or what kind of hearing protection is best for the tool or task you are working with. On the right, instructional technician John Martin is using a miter saw, a tool that is capable of exceeding noise levels of 103 decibels. Because of this, he is wearing appropriately fitting earmuffs. In most cases, seeing eyeglasses are not enough to protect one against the elements in a studio. For protection against hazardous liquids, flying particles, radiation associated with welding, and heat associated with glass blowing, selecting the appropriate eye protection is important. On the left, John Martin, woodshop instructional technician, is wearing impact goggles, a form of PPE which prevents any flying particulates such as wood chips from kicking back into his eyes. On the right, Kim Van Sommeren, instructional technician in printmaking, is wearing splash goggles, a form of PPE which prevents any acid or toxic liquids from splashing into her sight of vision. Consult with your instructional technician or faculty to assist you in selecting the job-appropriate eye protection. Half-mass respirators can provide protection from some gases and vapors. Be aware that one must be fit for the appropriate size of respirator and must attend university-sponsored training to do so. Respirators must have the correct cartridge for the type of material being used and must be changed often. Consult with your instructional technician to schedule a fit test or to find out more information on the appropriate type of breathing protection required. Seen here is Jinsu Song, instructional technician in ceramics. Because he is working with fine dust particles, he wears a mask to protect himself from inhaling toxic particles. If worn correctly, an N95 disposable paper dust mask provides protection from 95% of airborne particulates. Keep in mind these nuisance particles must be 0.3 microns in size or larger. As reference, particles visible to the human eye register at 25 microns. Table salt registers at 500 microns. Be aware that paper dust masks do not work if not worn correctly or are used by anyone with facial hair. As always, consult with an instructional technician in your area for the proper dust mask that you are required to wear for certain tasks. The university has general policies relating to safety, professional practice, and etiquette in studio spaces. Please keep these in mind as you use the School of Art, Art History, and Design studio spaces. As a graduate student, your safe practices and studio etiquette will influence those studying around you, as well as those charged under your direction as an instructor. Alcohol on university property is strictly prohibited unless a liquor license has been obtained for a special event. Any violation of the university's liquor or drug policy is cause for disciplinary actions. Smoking is prohibited in all university facilities, inside all buildings owned or occupied by the university and or used by the university's faculty, staff, or students. The University of Washington has designated areas for smoking. If you would like to know of such areas, please refer to the Environmental Health and Safety website for specific locations. Eating and drinking is not permitted in studios. By doing so, this puts you and others at risk of ingesting potentially toxic materials. It is never a good idea to mix food and art materials. In addition, food and drink spills can become a trip hazard and may potentially ruin valuable materials and artwork. It is encouraged for all students, faculty, and staff to take water and food breaks, as many of the activities and methods force us to work long hours and in some cases can be somewhat athletic. If you need to take a break, wash your hands before eating and eat and drink away from your work area. Again, see specific programmatic policies for areas in which eating and drinking is permitted. Studios and classrooms must be maintained and kept in a clean and working manner. Students are responsible for cleaning up after themselves after working. This includes cleaning up garbage, recycle, and compostable items. Building custodians are charged with removing trash and sweeping in public areas only. This includes the hallways, restrooms, and not individual studios and workspaces. In addition, COVID policies are in place for cleaning and disinfecting work areas before and after you are finished. Specific programs have more detailed information on cleanup policies. Speak to your faculty or instructional technician regarding these protocols. Students are strongly encouraged to use the buddy system during off hours of all three buildings. The buddy system is mandatory at the CMA after hours. Having a buddy system in place during off hours allows for extra sets of eyes and ears on working methods and safety incidents, but also encourages responsibility and feelings of security among colleagues in a similar environment. In some cases, this can mean working in a team during process-related activities, or simply letting your colleagues know if you are entering or leaving the building late at night. Any opportunities that you have to increase communication during work time benefits all those who are involved. The University of Washington is a public building on a very public and scenic campus. The main campus is nestled in a very urban area and is close to many points of entry, including bus, light rail, and commuter terminals. In order to keep the building and its shops safe from incidents of theft or forced entry, it is important to follow access guidelines carefully. Most School of Art, Art History, and Design studios are locked and require enrollment, training, or other types of permission in order to be used. Studios are kept locked during off hours to protect those working during late night hours and weekends. After hours, all studio doors must be locked upon exit. Studio door combinations are provided by course instructors and must never be shared. Each building and program has specific policies for access and security. In addition, COVID-19 access and occupancy numbers affect how and when studios are used. Please see your instructional technician for more detailed information. For the main School of Art building, after-hours access is at the northwest loading entrance to the building. To enter, use your Husky card at the card swipe terminal. Swipe once and wait for the door to sound that it is unlocked. Do not let others in behind you. To exit the building during off hours, please use this same door, as other doors will sound an alarm if opened. Washington state law declares that, except as noted below, no animals are allowed in any buildings or structures the university owns, operates, leases, rents, or controls. This includes the 3 facilities used by the School of Art, Art History, and Design. The only exceptions are for service animals or service animals in training, police or emergency personnel search, and rescue animals, and animals used in research under the laws established by the University of Washington and the state. For a more detailed understanding of this policy, one can refer to the School of Art, Art History, and Design Animal Policy found on the Administrative Resources page at the school's website. In order to gain access to equipment and use of studio spaces, artists must become an authorized studio user. This may be obtained through training, testing, or attending demonstrations. Instructional technicians are here to guide artists through this process and grant access to those wishing to do so. If you are interested in using a shop outside of your program, contact the instructional technician in that area to gain information on how to access that particular shop. Dialing 911 from any campus phone will connect you and your location to the University of Washington Police Department dispatch. UWPD dispatch maintains an emergency communications center 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call UWPD for emergencies of any kind, including but not limited to fire, medical emergency, suspicious persons, or hazardous spills or release. If you are dialing 911 from your cell phone, you will be connected to Seattle Police Department dispatch. If you call from your cell phone and speak with SPD, be prepared to give your specific location, including floor, room number, incident details, and building. Note that Seattle PD may not be familiar if you say the CMA, the UW Art Building, or Painting and Drawing Studios at Sandpoint. Again, be prepared to give a specific address, including street name and building number for the location of where you're at. In any emergency, all School of Art, Art History, and Design locations must be evacuated. Please direct yourself and others to the following evacuation points and wait until directed by emergency personnel. Any and all evacuations will be situational: earthquake, fire, active shooter, or protests. In the event of an evacuation, walk, do not run. Do not use the elevators. It is advised to bring all of your personal belongings, including keys, wallet, and cell phone with you. In the event that the evacuation is not a drill, you may or may not be permitted to enter the building for some time. For the main campus building, the assembly evacuation point is on the lawn in between art and music. For the CMA, it is in parking lot E3, and for Sandpoint, it is the west side parking lot. In the event of a fire, several options exist. Small fires can be put out with fire extinguishers. All University of Washington School of Art, Art History, and Design studios are equipped with a Class ABC fire extinguisher. An ABC dry chemical extinguisher is capable of helping extinguish ordinary solid combustibles, flammable liquids and gases, as well as energized electrical equipment. The CMA has ABC, CO2, and specific fire extinguishers for molten metal. If you discover a fire or cannot put it out after attempting to do so, pull the nearest fire alarm. Warning strobes and alarms will sound if pulled. Proceed to evacuate to the nearest emergency assembly point as soon as possible. One can never prepare enough for an earthquake. Many of the more modern buildings on the University of Washington campus have been seismically retrofitted. The Art Building and the CMA are two buildings that are not on this list. In any case, remembering a few things can be the difference between safe and sorry. If you are inside, drop to the floor, take cover immediately under closest, sturdiest object, and hold on. If you are in a hallway, move to the walls and crouch alongside. Tuck your head into your body, making your body as small as possible, and protect your head. Move away from windows and from anything that can fall from overhead. Do not run, use elevators, stand in doorways, or run out of the building. After the shaking stops, evacuate to the emergency assembly point with personal belongings. Take account for anyone that you know may still be inside. If you are outside, stay away from buildings and exterior walls, electrical wires, or poles. Do not attempt to re-enter buildings. Reserve cell phone use for emergencies only. In the event of a hazardous material spill, students should notify instructional technicians. Never attempt to clean up such spills. If you spill hazardous or toxic materials, stay with the spill until environmental health and safety or a technician can assess the hazard level. Do not leave spills to endanger others. If a technician or faculty member is not present, call the emergency facility number with what the material is, where you are located, and the amount that is spilled. The School of Art, Art History, and Design shops are supplied with basic first aid supplies. All School of Art staff are first aid certified and can assist with low-level injuries. Those needing medical attention should seek assistance by calling 911 or be escorted to Hall Health or UW Medical Center. In the event that you become injured or have a near-miss incident, it is required that you file an injury report within 24 hours of the injury on the University of Washington's Online Accident Report System, or OARS as it is called. Work-related incidents are tracked and investigated so that preventative measures can be implemented. The information contained in the reports is essential to maintain successful safety programs. Reporting is also required to help the university meet its compliance responsibilities set by federal, state, and funding agencies. Call EH&S immediately if the incident involves any of the following: inpatient hospitalization, recombinant or synthetic DNA exposure or spill, fatality. Application of all aerosols in School of Art, Art History, and Design buildings must be conducted in an approved exhaust room. Use is prohibited in classrooms, hallways, and studios. Approved booths can be found in the School of Art main building, the CMA, and Sandpoint. Exhaust room policies for you and your students can be found posted on the door. Exhaust rooms are unlocked and are available 24/7 and are equipped with proper flammables cabinets for you to store flammables items. In order for a student to bring their own power tools to a School of Art, Art History, and Design facility, they must first contact a program technician from 3D4M, painting and drawing, printmaking, or design to set up an appointment to discuss the tool or tools they wish to use. The technician, with the student's help, will fill out a power tool user agreement that will address condition, storage, and use of the tool in question. The program technician will inspect the tool to determine whether it is safe to use in a School of Art, Art History, and Design facility. Tools deemed unsafe must be removed from school premises. If a ladder is necessary to install artwork, students, faculty, or staff must first complete necessary ladder safety training available through the University of Washington Environmental Health and Safety prior to installation. This training is a 20-minute online training session with a question and answer session that follows. For installations, no artwork is allowed to block access to exits or entrances in any way. Any installation must be secured in such a way that no one can be injured. Nothing must be allowed to fall down, tip over, or spill. Protect the public from tripping over your installation. Display areas often have heavy public traffic. Your installation must not endanger public health or safety. No work is allowed to hang from water or electrical pipes, and no work is allowed to hang from the ceiling. For more details on specific installation policies, please contact the School of Art Administrative Office. Be aware that installation of shows or exhibits in public areas of all of the School of Art buildings are on an application basis only. Faculty must apply to the Art Administration Office at least 1 week before their desired installation dates, with the application found on the administrative page on the School of Art website. Students may also apply to display their work and can pick up an application from the Administrative Office front desk. Thank you for wading through all of this information with us. If you have any questions regarding the safety of you or others you are working with, please reach out to the University of Washington Environmental Health and Safety Program, your faculty, or your programmatic instructional technicians. We are all here to help you safely work and research during your time with us here, as well as after you go off into the world of making. Thanks.